Hello techies, welcome to IT Tech Solution. In this video, I will take a step further in step functions and we will jump to see the step function variables. So variables in step function is used to control the flow of data from starting till the end of the step function. So this is a little complex topic, but I have tried to make it a little easy to understand, and I hope I will be able to explain it in a easy manner. So as I said, right, so the variables in step function are used to control the flow of data. We have majorly three types of variables. One is the result path, another is input path, and third one is output path. So using these three variables, it's very easy to control the flow of data, or what filtering of data, what exactly you want as an output from your step function. We can have a full control over it. So we will see all these variables in action when I give a demo, but this is just a demo description, like what I will be trying to execute. I just want to give first overview of this. So this is the flow that I will be creating in step function. As you can see, we have a start here. I will be invoking two lambda. Basically, these are the same lambda. I'll be invoking in two different states. So first state I will give as input. So this would be my input. It's a simple JSON. I'm just passing one main key in it as my input. Inside that I have a variable called as incoming variable. Okay, so I'll be feeding this as input to my step function. So first state will receive this as a input. Okay, so this is a simple input. Now first invoke lambda, or lambda invoke will take this as input. It will generate a metadata. Okay, so every step function, it generates metadata in the first step itself. So that metadata will get generated. So what I will do is, I don't need metadata, right? In some cases we need metadata also, but I don't need metadata specifically for my case. So what I will do is, I will attach the actual input to it. Okay, so once I attach the actual input, I will get a combination of these two, metadata and actual input. So to attach the actual input, we can use a result path. Okay, I can define what will be the result of this state. So using result path, I can modify my output, and I can attach this input as a output. Okay, so here this side is output, this side is input, right? So this will be the output of first step. Now this output is automatically then becomes input of the next step. Okay, so now the input is metadata plus the actual input, right? And that will be fed to the next step. And here in my lambda function, then this step I want what output I would want from this lambda function. Okay, so again, the output, I don't want to attach anything, I don't want to do anything, I just want to define the output. From whatever results it is generating, I can restrict it to output only certain key out of it. I don't want the entire output. So that we can use, for that we can use the output path. So here all these three variables I'll try to use, and then create a lambda function, create the step function, and then we will see how the input and how the output looks. Okay, so if you refer the documentation, you will get these definitions. The result path. So the first one I told, result path, right? I am attaching it. Same thing you'll get in documentation. The output of a state can be a copy of its original, or you can combine it. It can be a combination of the input. Okay, so this is the one. And input path, I said, right? Use input path to select a portion of the state input. So from metadata plus actual path, I'll just use one key. I won't use the metadata part. So using input path, I can filter it out. Output path, it enables you to select a portion of the state output to pass to the next state. I don't have a next state here. If I would have a next state here, right, it would have got this part as input. So whatever I am filtering using output path, it would have been fed to the next state. But since there is no next state, it will show us as a output. So this is what I will be trying to create. Let's jump to the AWS console and I'll try to create a step function quickly. I'll take a blank template. From there, I just want to drag this two times. Okay, these two I would need. So for first, let's configure it. So here I just will say no payload, because I don't want a lambda for my, at least for my first state. I don't want to process anything. I just want to show you how the input will be and what will be the output. Lambda will not give me any output, so I'm saying no payload. I don't want any payload to be passed to the lambda. And then function, let us choose the function. I'll show the lambda what it does. It's a simple, it'll just return the value. So this is lambda 3 I'm selecting. No need to change anything. Now in input, I don't want any specific input here, or any filtering, right? While executing this step function, I'll give the input to this step function. Output I want to attach, right? So I want to use the result path, right? So I will uncheck this and I will check this second. So what second option says is add original input to the output using result path, the same way that I just showed in this diagram, right? So using result path, I would want to attach it. Okay, so I would want to attach, but what I want to attach is that we will have to define here. Okay, so I would want to attach metadata, right? So I will give any user defined name to it. Okay, so dollar is nothing but the entire input or the entire variable value in it, right? So entire value is present under dollar. Okay, this is the way that step function variables is defined. So dollar is the entire value of the variable, and to that I'm attaching, I'm giving it a name basically. So metadata, whatever JSON gets generated, right? I'm giving it a name. I'm saying it as a metadata output. So that will be a metadata output. And since I'm using result path, so whatever input I will be giving to this state will be attached to metadata output. So this way we will get the attached result of both the things. Now let's go to the second step. In second step, again I will just choose the same lambda. Okay, and here in payload, now I will give uh, the value. Okay, so payload I will say is input to the lambda, and I'll explain what this payload means. So I will say here enter a payload. Okay, I want a payload to pass to this lambda. Now this payload, if you see, right, I'm defining a variable. This variable my lambda will be reading. It will be passed to lambda function as an event, right? So event first variable will be input to lambda and dollar. Okay, so this way we can define the input. So the value of this variable is a dollar dot incoming variable, right? So incoming variable, if you remember, is the actual input that I will be giving to the this step function. So what I'm saying is whatever step function the second step is receiving as input, in that input this will be there, right? So from that I am just taking the incoming variable and its value. So first input is its value, right? So that value will come here. So the value that is coming here, I am extracting it from the dollar. Okay, so from dollar dot. So while assigning a value, it's variable dot dollar, and while extracting the value of it is dollar dot its variable. So this way I'll define the payload, and then I'll go to input. Right now for input, I would give here filter the input with my input. Right. So if we go to the diagram, input to this, I want to use input path, and from input path I just want to take the actual input. I don't want to attach the metadata. Okay, so what I will do here in input, I will say input path, right? So that is what we discussed, input path. So we need to use input path. So I'll say that okay, filter my input of input path, and from my dollar, that is from the complete thing, just take my input. Okay, so just take this value. So this is the input path. Now output of this, I want just whatever payload is generated by this lambda, so I just want to keep that as output. So for that we have to use the output path. So output path will go, and we will define, we'll say filter the output with output path and dot dollar dot payload. So I just want whatever the result of this lambda would be, just keep that as output. So I'll just leave it as dollar dot payload. Okay, so dollar dot payload will just keep. So I'll attach these steps also, and the definition of this, so it will be easy to understand. So this is the way I'll define my step function. So I think we have defined everything. Let's create this step function. If I show the code to you, we'll see how it gets generated. So this is the backend code with which my step function generated, right? So if you just click on the first step, it shows me how this values are getting passed from result path to all of these things, right? So the first step, right, as I mentioned, the first step I'll be using a result path. So here you can see that result path, okay? And in result path I'm saying dollar dot metadata input. So whatever is the actual input, attach the metadata. I'm giving that key name as metadata output, right? So it is getting attached. So this is how it looks at the code level. Similarly, the lambda, I'm calling the function, but I'm not passing any payload here, if you see. Okay. And these are kind of a default thing. I'll be discussing these things in some another video, but these are the error handling which it adds by default. And if I just go to the second step, you will see I have two another variables that I'm using in my second step, that is input path. Okay, first is input path. So input path, you see I'm saying that from dollar, so whatever it received as input, you just keep my input and then pass on to lambda or whatever you want to do, right? So out of the actual input, that is a combination of everything, what it will do, it will trim that input, it will keep only my input. Okay, now after this step, dollar will have only my input in it. And if you see here in the lambda payload, I'm saying dollar dot incoming variables. So out of my input, now it will take only incoming variables. So this is the payload that I'm passing to the lambda function. This is the function, right? And the output of this will be defined by output path. So output path, I'm saying whatever comes back to this payload, right? I just want to print it as in the output. So this is how the code at the back end of this step function looks like. Okay, we'll quickly run this, and as soon as we run, we will see how the data flow is happening. It will be much more clearer when you see. Now, as a input, you remember I said that I'll give one input to this. So this is my input, right? I want to pass this input to my step function. So first step will receive this as input, and that will be passed as per this architecture. So whatever we have defined, it will be flowing in this way. So let's start execution, and you can see it got completed. Now let's see each steps, what is the input and what is the output. It will be very nice and easy to understand. So input, you say the input that I gave to my step function. So my first step received this as input. Okay, and output, what it generated, as we said, right, this is my actual input. It got attached with the metadata. You can see this entire thing is the metadata that step function generated, and the name that I had given to my metadata while creating this step function. If I go to edit on the output path of this, so I said like attach and give it a name as metadata output to the main key. So here if you see, the main key is metadata output. So under metadata output, I have attached everything in that. Okay, so if I go to my second lambda and input, uh, uh, you will see that this is coming, but before processing this step, right, it will remove and it will take only this part, it will not take the other parts, and it will feed this part only as a payload to the lambda function in this. Okay, and if you see the lambda function here, it is just returning the values. So return the event, okay, whatever event it is receiving. So if we check the event of this, we will see that what it has returned and it will be returning only the value of my actual input. So let's see that also. So here if we come to the output, we will see the event is input to the lambda, and this is the value that it has passed. So entire event it is returning. So whatever, and this event is nothing but the one that I passed as initial input to this. So I hope I was able to make it a little clear to you. I would suggest just go through the documentation once. I'll give that link as well in the description. And once you go through that and again you come back to my video, it will be much more clearer to you. I know this is a little tricky and not very easy to understand, but you will be able to understand after some practice. So I hope this video was useful for you. I will be very soon back with some other similar kind of videos. Until then, bye bye.